Excuse me. Hey Tim, how you doing? Hey Josh, Jack, John. Hope you're all well. Seneca Norberg, welcome. Not sure I've seen you before, but welcome aboard. So I've yet to have a pipe today. I haven't had one since Friday. And I haven't really decided what I fancy. I might just go for some Northwoods, actually. Or maybe go straight to a cigar. And my son... Oh, incidentally, Jack, I saw a picture of your pipe. I think it's pipe number 6. Grain on that. The staining looks very, very good. And the overall shaping is very nice as well. I haven't really watched your video. I just saw the pictures. And I think that pipe deserves to be kept. And maybe fine-tune that junction between the bowl and the shank. Because you've done very, very well with the pipe. Considering it's your 6th pipe, it's pretty awesome. I'm very, very impressed. But because it's got such nice grain and you've stained it so well, I would hold on to that pipe. Either if you're not quite ready to tackle that junction, hold on to it until you are. But that could be a special pipe. I mean, it already is, considering it's number 6, but you do need to put some work in on the junction. And I think that it deserves it. You know, you've done so well with it. I would hold on to that pipe and either play with it now and try to sort of make that junction a little bit more formed. Yeah, I mean, I didn't listen to it, so I don't know if you've sent it to anybody or whatever, but if you haven't committed to anybody on that pipe, I mean, you do what you want, it's your pipe, of course, but I would hold on until you've had a chance to resolve that, because it's the grain, you know, you don't get grain like that every day. So, you know, when you do get it, you want to make sure the pipe results in something special. So that junction to me looks like it needs quite a fair bit of briar taking off still. Yeah, so I'm just being straight with you and giving you what I think is good advice. You may not like it, but yeah, if you're not sure about it, I would hold on. Just put it aside, put it away, put it in a bag so it doesn't get damaged, and put it in a drawer, and you'll find, you know, in no time at all, you'll have more confidence in shaping the junction. And when you do, go back to that pipe. You know, so you'll have to resand it, of course, and restain it. But just the thing is with briar is that when you get a stain which works out like that, then, you know, because every piece of briar is slightly different. You know, if you look at these pipes here, you know, each one has a slightly different, even though they might have the same exact staining treatment. Not all of them do, but even if they would, they'd all still look, there'd be some slight differences because every piece of briar reacts differently to the staining because of its own intrinsic coloration. You know, almost each piece of briar has a very, very slight different hue to it. And depending on which part of the world, they can have a completely different color. I mean, you can have some almost white briar, very blonde colored briar, like a Mimo briar is often very, very white. And you can have some other briar which is almost red. And obviously some of it is like that because of its age. So you could have a piece of briar which is red brown color. So whatever stain you put on it, that's never going to be a very bright colored, even if you go for high contrast. And you don't stain the brighter parts, it's still going to be a darkish kind of contrast because the briar is dark. So when you get a piece of briar which is good, like the one you've got, which produces a stain and a contrast like you've achieved on the pipe, it's worth, and like I say, just hold on to it and see if you can do better with it. You've done a great job so far, like I say. Yeah, that's my tuppence worth. There's a few pipe makers who have. I consider myself still to be a very new pipe maker, but there's even newer pipe makers who, contact me from time to time to ask how I do this or how I do that. And I don't consider myself an experienced pipe maker, but obviously 3 years almost down the line, I've got more experience than somebody who's been doing it for a few months. And when I was at this kind of state, at your kind of stage, I sort of reached out to a few pipe makers for advice. I would send them pictures on a particular pipe and ask them, how do I do this or how do I do that? Or they would just simply see my pictures on social media and simply send me a critique. And most of them always did it in a good-natured kind of way, and it was very much appreciated. And always, they wanted to solve the problem. So if I was doing something wrong, they would say, this needs sorting out, here's what you can do. And there's always some guys who you can feel almost that they resent the fact that you're progressing. Maybe they feel that you're going to impinge on their own profitability, something, but it's really their own lack of confidence, I guess. But, so you feel, there was on Facebook, for instance, there was one guy who would look at my pipes when I put up pictures on pipe, and he would always critique it and criticize. Not critique, he would criticize. He would put it up every bad point, and that was it. He would never say, here's what you can do, or try and do this, or try that, and always just say, this is not good enough, this is bad, this is really amateurish, and blah, blah. And you almost kind of feel that these are guys who are kind of not wanting you to succeed because they want to be the best pipe maker. I hated that. And basically I realized, I kind of pinpointed who those people were, and I just either blocked them or ignored them. So I used to respond, if somebody's giving me critique, I'll obviously respond and say, thank you, and maybe, say why I had a particular intention of doing this or doing that. But the ones that were persistent in being just negative, I just ignored them. So when I give critique, I try my best to give honest critique, at the same time being positive, complimenting what's good, because any new pipe maker, from pipe 1 to pipe 2 is always going to be better than pipe 1, and pipe 5 is going to certainly be better than pipe 1, no question about it. So there's always going to be positives that you can say. So if you're going to be a mensch, if you're going to be a decent person, the first thing you want to do is compliment, give the person encouragement that they're doing well. But don't lie. Obviously, you want to be positive in a truthful way, but at the same time, you want to give constructive feedback and say, this is the area where you need to improve, and this is what you might want to do in order to improve that. So when I say those things, Jack, I'm saying that in a positive way. I'm not saying it as a criticism when I talk about that junction, but slowly but surely, just at this stage, I would say, if you, like I said before, I don't want to keep saying it, but maybe just set the pipe aside until you've had more experience, simply because you don't want to ruin that pipe because of the grain. I would say do it on this pipe, but you may not want to take the chance. So that's why I say put it aside and carry on doing your pipes, and you'll progress. There's no doubt about it. It's quite clear that you'll progress, because the progression from pipe 1 to pipe 6 is enormous. It's unbelievable, really. So I would have no worries at all about your trajectory in progression. So you'll get there, no problem at all. Embarcadero. Embarcadero, is it? Or Cedero? I didn't get on with that tobacco. I tried it a couple of times. I found it to be too hot, too peppery. Put it this way, Jack. If I wasn't trying to help, I wouldn't have sent you those those jaws, would I? Chad, the Chadster. How are you doing? You have a very nice eyeball, by the way, Chad. GLPs, indeed, yeah. So my son has just been to Spain for. I asked him to pop into some tobacconists while he was there, look up some cigars, and he was very nice. They came as a pair, yeah. Do traditional pipe shapes sell better than freehand? Or tweaked traditional pipes bridge the gap? The freehand fashion, if you like, kind of was around the 80s, 90s, 70s, 80s, that kind of region, in terms of when people went mad for freehands, when kind of the Danish pipe makers had their peak, and people like Prebenholm, Søren Refberg, and a lot of the Danish pipe makers, they kind of, America discovered the freehand pipe. And when we say freehand, what we're talking about is, the free shapes. Like nowadays, one of the guys that I consider to make really nice freehand or different freehand pipes is Eric. What does he call himself? Sea Smoke Pipes and Pottery. Eric Weaver. So he does quite interesting shapes, freehand shapes, but they're freehand in as much as they're not bound by traditional shaping. Some people call freehands only those that are not done on a lathe, where the holes are not done on a lathe. But I think, generally speaking, when you talk about a freehand, people are talking about pipes which have free shapes, rather than whether the chamber is drilled on a lathe or not. So I would say that traditional shapes far outsell freehands, in my opinion. The billiard is known to be the most popular pipe shape, but I think you have to separate them into two distinct groups, into pipe smokers, although they cross over, but into pipe smokers and pipe collectors. There's a big difference, in my opinion. And although, of course, a pipe smoker can be a collector and vice versa, of course. But people sometimes, hey Boris, but people, when they buy pipes for collecting purposes, there's plenty of people who don't even smoke and they still buy pipes. So people who do that, they'll buy freehands, they'll buy very large pipes which are not very practical, for instance. So for argument's sake, the Calla Lily, not a very practical pipe. But it's certainly a collectible pipe. So, I, for instance, have never called myself a pipe collector. I consider myself to be a pipe smoker. I do have a collection of pipes, but they're not, the groupings that I have of my pipes are not based around traditional collecting methods. So, historically, people who collected, for instance, would be Dunhill collectors or Chariton collectors or billiard collectors. It'd either be by brand or it could be by shape. And you might have subgroups within that. So you might have say, Costello's shape 55s, a bunch of those, and a bunch of shapes 65s and whatever. So you would have that. So traditionally, that's what a pipe collector was. Nowadays, it's very different, I think, although there are plenty of those too. But I think nowadays people, there's so many pipe makers to choose from, whether they be artisan or whether they be factory pipes, that it's just mind-blowing, the array of pipes that are out there. But I would be pretty confident, I think, in saying that traditional pipes still outsell wacky shaped ones, because for the vast majority of people smoke their pipes to smoke them. Hey Tony. Anyway, I was in the middle of saying that my son went to Spain, came back on Friday or Thursday, and he brought me some cigars. I'm going to show you them. Cigars I haven't had for a long time. And he bought me a box of cigars, which I asked him to do, and I'm paying for those. But he also bought me 4 cigars, and he gave them to me as a gift in the end, which was very nice of him. I originally asked him to buy them, and I would pay for them, and I told him which ones to get. But when he came to it and he brought them to me, he said, "These are on the house," which was very, very nice of him. So I just thought I'd share those with you. Where is this? Hesho and Cuba. Totalmente a mano, handmade. Okay. So, the first bag is Mag 54s. These are called Magnum. Look at the difference in colour. So these are 54 ring gauge by, I think, 4 or 4.5 inches. Look how much darker that one is compared to that one. So he bought me 2 of those. That's why I'm kind of tempted to just go straight for a cigar tonight. And these ones, early on in my cigar smoking days, I smoked a bunch of these. I loved them. I haven't had one of these probably in a couple of years. Also H. Hutman's. And these are Mag 50s. So these are 50 ring gauge, but they're, I think, about a 6-inch, 6.5 inch. Something like that. And when I first sort of started kind of getting a bit of a relationship with the Dunhill shop in St James's, they brought out a box of a 50 cab from 2008. And they were selling, I think they were probably about £30 each or something like that. It's a lot of money. You're talking about $40, $45. And every time I'd go in, I'd buy a few of them. And eventually, obviously, the box got finished. I mean, other people were buying them too. But I must have had, I don't know, maybe 10 or something like that. That's a lot of money. Difficult to know the age of these. I'm very tempted to have one of these. An unfortunate typo there, Tim. So I'm excited about those, and this is the box that I asked them to get. This is Partagas D6, a very short smoke, like a short Robusto, but even shorter. I think this is a box of 20 or 25 maybe. 2, 4, 6. Oh no, it's 20. So what are we talking about? 3.5 inches. So they are small. But this is the kind of size that I prefer these days. Anything robusto and down in terms of length. In terms of girth, 48, 50 ring gauge, that's my sweet spot. But this is actually really longer than I prefer to smoke nowadays, but I am quite excited to try one of these. I think I'm going to smoke that. Maltese Falcon. Haven't smoked that in a long time. When I get single cigars, I tend to try and put them in boxes with older cigars in it, they get that aged aroma. So this is a box of singles with loads of regionals and limited editions. So I do try to just get them in there if I can. That basically helps it get a bit of a nice aged Cuban aroma. I'll leave that open a little bit. Okay, let's get it started and I can move on to other things. Difference in price is crazy. I mean, that box of Partagas, this was bought in Barcelona, €154 for a box of 20. €154. 154 euros in pounds. Is it £131? 131 divided by 20, £6.55 per cigar, which is I don't know what they would sell for now here in the UK. They'd probably be at least £15, I would have thought, so less than half price. Pretty amazing to be able to buy in Europe every so often. The price difference is mad. The amount of tax we pay here is just criminal. Oh, this one's wide open. Looks like there's a little bit of a hole there even. Hey Texan, how you doing? $273. Wow. What did I say? It was 131. It's more than double. Oh, I see. It's also a reduced price as well. Well, GQ generally, I find them to be very competitive in everything, pretty much. You really got good pricing. So if you do buy in the UK, I find that him and my smoking shop is also pretty reasonable. The truth is, I find most of the UK websites are pretty good. You know, in as much as they're able to be, given the amount of tax that they have to put on. Hot Rod Bob, how you doing? Roberto. I do smoke some non-Cuban cigars. Yep, I do smoke quite a few. It's coming back to me. The flavor of these is smoother than a lot of the other H. Upmans. Hey Jeff, how you doing? I find these got a classic start to a Cuban cigar. Buttery, nutty, creamy, milky, chocolatey. It's got a great start. They tend to move over into the Mag 50s generally are very smooth. They compare to, for instance, the Connoisseur 1, which is one of my favorite cigars of all time. And Connoisseur number 1 has a much more broader spectrum of flavors. It's got quite a floral, aromatic almost kind of flavor profile. These much smoother, a thinner flavor profile, but very, very tasty. It's really coming back to me. It's been so long since I've smoked them. Bob's Chocolate. That's an interesting tobacco. When I first discovered Bob's Chocolate, Hawk, I really enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But after a while, it started to grate on me. That combination of Latakia and a little bit of Lakeland essence, it didn't work for me. I'm not a Lakeland fan, as you all know, and it just grated on me too much. But I should really try it again. It's been a long time since I've tried it. Some of my pipes currently on my website, reduced prices. In case anyone's interested, I went through all of the available pipes on my website and put some hefty reductions on them. So if you were kind of teetering between pulling the trigger and not, now is the time to go back, because I've reduced them quite heavily. This beautiful acorn is on there. Gorgeous pipe. This beautiful Dublin Cumberland stem, hand cut. These are all hand cut stems. Really nice grain on this one. Nice flat top. Nice grain on the rim. It's a gorgeous pipe. This one is still up there at a great price. All plateau top. Superb piece of briar, very, very clean. And I keep forgetting for some reason is that I still haven't put this one on there. This is kind of a space age kind of pipe. Beautiful green-black Cumberland sort of ebonite stem. It's a lovely pipe. The cigar I'm smoking at the moment is really nice. Thank you, Daniel. Cobblestone walnut maple pie. Is that a pie or tobacco? This is a pipe that I'm currently working on, a lightweight Dublin. Website is lcsbriars.com, www.lcsbriars.com. So this is a lightweight sort of Lovat type Dublin. It's got a very slight sort of Dublin shape. It's not an extreme Dublin. Still got more sanding to do here on the junction. I haven't done any hand sanding really. This is all pretty much done on the shaping wheel so far. So this area here needs to be refined. It's right up your street, Hawk. I know that. It's really, yeah, I may well keep it. I know I say that always, but this is also a very interesting stem material. This is it's ebonite. It's Cumberland. It's brindled ebonite, but it's called apricot and blue, I think. It's got like an orangey colour in there with blue and greys. It should be really nice. And this one is 9mm, so if I do decide to keep it, I can. I might put a little adornment there just to protect that end. I'm not sure yet. Yeah, sure, Boris. Just drop me a message in any of the media messenger, and I'll send you a picture of the tracking. That the bit should work out nice. I mean, I haven't finished the shaping yet, but I'll see how much it weighs now. Might be another gram or two to come off it, but 37 grams. So that's going to be a real classic Lovat type, lightweight pipe. It should be a cracker. Yeah, it's on the money, Hawk. It really is on the money. It's perfect thickness. It's tapered, so there's plenty of thickness there too. Um, because I wanted it to be lightweight, I especially did it tapered so that I could make the walls not too thick. But there's plenty of thickness at the top, and obviously down here it's, the bowl is that kind of width, so there's plenty of briar there. I mean, most people wouldn't put a tapered bowl in a classic shape, but I think it will make it an awesome smoking pipe because of that wall thickness, despite the fact that it's a lightweight pipe. So I think it'll still be cool, but still very lightweight. I'm looking forward to seeing how that comes out, and perhaps I'll do more of those if it works out well. The idea of this is for it to be a real workhorse pipe. So usually when you think about a workhorse pipe, you might think about something like this. Thick walls, stubby, chunky kind of pipe which will go through anything, withstand any abuse. But if you can do it in a lightweight package like that, that's, win-win. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that comes out. And you can see as well that I've given it quite a wide, I've tapered it outwards with quite a wide bit, which will make it extremely comfortable. It's not too wide, but certainly not too narrow. And that, should make it extremely clenchable. Doing a proper saddle with a slight little curve there. You can see there's a little bit of a curve, just to give it some shape. Other than that, some of you might have seen, I pulled the trigger on the Peterson book. I've been looking for them for a while. Most of the online resources are out of stock now. Smoking Pipes Europe and .com, both out of stock. I bought it actually on an Italian website. I can't remember which one it was right now. Hang on, I've got the receipt here which came with it. No, I tell a lie. I bought it on eBay, but it did come from Italy. Would I make a 6mm pipe? I don't see why not, Daniel. I haven't yet so far. I don't see why I wouldn't. So there's the Peterson book. It's quite a hefty book by Mark Owen and Gary Malmberg. Very, very nicely made, good quality, heavy duty binding. Very, very nice. For me, there's one mistake on the cover. Which I'm puzzled, but as you can see on the inside, they've done it, and that is the green. I don't understand why this cover is not green with the Peterson colour. It's, Brian Levine does his on pipemagazine.com, doesn't he? No, it wasn't dollars, Chad. It was euros. Not minos, euros. It's published by Briar Books Press. Briar Books Press, is that Gary Schreier? I'm not sure. It's not a cheap book, I'll grant you that. But it's not the most expensive that I've seen it online for. It cost 81 euros. 81 euros and 56 cents. Yeah, it is Pipe Magazine, yeah, I thought so. So it's roughly 70, 75 pounds. But I've seen it online for a fair bit more than that. So I've been wanting to get it for a while, but I've just never sort of pulled the trigger. When it was first released, I was offered it at the time by the people who were involved in the publishing of it for $60 or £60, I can't remember, which was a great price at the time. Either they wanted to just have pre-orders, or they just wanted it to get out there with people who were sort of on social media. Maybe they wanted it to be seen, but I didn't pull the trigger because I'm not really a Peterson fan. But in the end, I succumbed. I was just, I'm a glutton for, a sucker for pipe media. So that's ultimately why I bought it in the end. I just love reading pipe stuff. A wandering piper. You got your pipe. Awesome. Cool. Glad you got it. Hey Gary, how you doing? Manash, I didn't see Manash. Hi Manash, I missed you there, sorry. Welcome aboard. The pros and cons of Mirchon pipes. Well, there you go. Josh has given you the lowdown. But yeah, essentially what Josh has basically said is that a Mirchon will give you a very clean smoke. It'll give you a very honest flavour of what you're smoking. And there won't be any contributory flavours coming from the briar or from other things that you might have smoked in a briar before. They're really easy to keep clean, and you can enjoy watching them develop a nice sort of honey and then darker kind of colour. A lot of people buy them for that. But yeah, they're fragile, so a lot of people won't use them whilst they're out and about. And that's the reason why they come in their own dedicated cases. So I've got two Mirchons. This one is my Pipe Club of London one. I don't smoke it as much as I ought to, but you can see it's starting to colour up a little bit around the edges. A little slight honey colour there on the shank and on the base of the bowl. And it's kind of colouring really nicely, actually, in a very gradual but sort of consistent way. Sometimes you can see it's a little bit more yellow over there, but sometimes you'll get some pipes which they're almost black over here and hardly any colour over there, which I always found to be quite unattractive. But this one is doing reasonably well. For me, some of the pitfalls are when you buy a Mirchon is that oftentimes the stems are not very well made. Pretty much, probably 95% of Mirchons come from Turkey, and there's probably quite a small group of people who make them. relatively speaking. But what you do find often is that the stem work is not great. So the stem work here, sometimes it can be quite thick and cumbersome, a bit clumsy, and also this joint here is fraught with risk in terms of how well made it is or how badly it's made. So from that point of view, if you can just get a reliable maker that actually takes the time to be careful about all of that, then they're fantastic pipes. I just prefer Briar. It's just a lot simpler, and it's what I'm used to. Yeah, Tim's your man. Tim's got a brace of Mirchon pipes, and he's been adding to them recently. So, yeah, definitely speak to Tim. See, I would consider adapting the bit myself. This is my other Mirchon, which I hardly smoked. Smoked it a few times, a handful of times. But, this is a very basic junction. It's a plastic, there's a plastic kind of cap here, and it's just basic plastic. It's not even made from acrylic pipe material. It's just a bit of plastic, a crude bit of plastic, and they're notoriously. This one's got it looks like it's got a what's his name, mortise, a nylon mortise, or Teflon possibly, or whatever they call it, and that seems to be okay. But sometimes the mortise can come out, or the tenon can come out. That one's actually not too bad. I thought it wasn't as good as that. So this one, you take it off and close it in the same direction, because if you do it in the other direction, it unscrews. So this is the opposite. The tenon is in the mortise. At least I assume it was supposed to be that way, but it holds its own, so I'm not too worried about it. It doesn't drop off or anything like that. I think it was made that way. But the bit here is really, it's quite thick over here. So I could sort of file that down and get it to where I want it to be, but I can see that the hole is actually wider than the slot, and if I file it down, I might file through into the draft. So I'm just nervous to do it. So I just rather left well alone. Are you indoors, Chad? James is probably watching on his big screen. And this one is on its way, going to be on its way to its buyer. This is a commissioned LCS built. So this is the Eldritch Metallic series rodstock. The only thing with this stuff is you can't actually predict where the gold stuff is going to be. I've got some silver, I've got some bronze, gold. What's the other one? There's 4. I bought one of each of the series to see what they're like. Really nice, thin bit, nice and comfortable. Nice grain. Really nice bird's eye on the rim. Worked out very well, this pipe. Copper, maybe. Hawk, maybe. Maybe this is that, I don't know. Maybe, is this the gold? It looks gold. But this really is like a very cool texture. It looks like it's a molten kind of metal inside a black stem. It's very cool. Very nice junction here, completely seamless. So that'll be on its way. Other than that, all my pipes have been sent, so pretty up to date. Do I think that new pipe makers should master the classic shapes before they branch out to other shapes? I don't think there's any hard and fast rule to it. I think people should do whatever they want to do. And if they're successful, then it works for them. If they're not successful, then it hasn't worked. But what the masters say is that you should train on classics because that is a very disciplined set of dimensions that you have to work with, and in order to replicate that time and time again, you've really got to develop your skills. So people, for instance, who have apprenticed by, say, somebody like Tom Eltang, he will say to them, here's a billiard, make 20 of them identical, and that's how you would train. So once you can master that, then making a freehand, at least you've got the basics in terms of making a pipe, and then you can go and sort of be as creative as you want. When I first started making a pipe, I was it's obviously much easier in the beginning to say you're making a freehand pipe, and the shaping doesn't have to look a certain way. So that you could always have a freehand pipe and say that was my intention. So when I first started off, it was easy to do that. As long as you've got the construction right. I'm pointing at the cigar. As long as you've got the construction right, so the drilling's where it should be, then you could experiment and do whatever you want with the shaping. But I guess from a point of view of being a rounded pipe maker that can do whatever a customer wants almost, you do need to practice on the classics, for sure. But to say that you should do one rather than the other first, I wouldn't say that myself. If anything, I would say if you're working as an apprentice, if you're getting training, then I would say yes, do the classics, because you're getting the guidance. If you're teaching yourself, which is what I did, obviously with help from people online and stuff like that, but if you're basically teaching yourself, personally, I would go with freehand, just to give yourself the confidence to learn your way around the shaping wheel, to learn a way around the lathe, sanding, all of that kind of thing, to give you the confidence, to give you the muscle memory, to give you the understanding of how briar works. And then you could, tighten up your skills and go towards more disciplined shapes. You'll find it a lot easier to do that once you've got a little bit of experience just working with pipes. To me, that makes a lot of sense. And that's kind of the way I went. But my particular style generally is classic shapes, but with just a little bit of my touch to it. So essentially, okay, so this is a fairly classic, it's a Dublin. Okay, there's some stem work here, but essentially it's a Dublin pipe. So there's nothing, particularly inventive on that pipe. But take something like this, which is a volcano shape. Okay, all the work is pretty much gone into the stem work, but it's kind of, I've just brought a volcano pipe and just made something interesting out of it. At least, at least I think so. So far, nobody else does because it hasn't been bought. And for the most part, I'll just do whatever inspires me on that particular day, if it's not a commission. Yeah, he definitely lucked out on this piece of briar. No question about it. Really nice grain. It was almost a shame to carve into it, really. I don't recall if there were any flaws that I was trying to get past. Maybe there were, I don't remember. But the commission was for this type of thing. Hey, Michael. How you doing? Thank you for Friday. Received in good order. I don't suppose you've received your pipe already, have you? It would be a little bit fast if you did, but I've seen it happen. I've seen pipes go stateside and arrive in less than a week. Not often, mind. Should be there Monday. Cool. Good for you. That's made pretty reasonable time, pretty standard. In my experience, mostly between 7 and 10 days to get my pipes to the States. Yeah, Steve. I assume it's you, Steve. It's like anything, I started off with a hobby block as well, but I didn't start with a Dremel. I mean, I think starting with files and a Dremel with a hobby block, that's really tough going because you're working with a big block of briar. Whereas if you have a bandsaw and you can just get, that L shape, which is what I do. I don't even shape, most of the really experienced guys in Europe, they'll shape the pipe as much as they can on the bandsaw. I don't do that. I cut on the bandsaw literally just the outline of the pipe that I've drawn on the block. So it's 2-dimensional, whereas a lot of guys, they'll do it 3-dimensional on the bandsaw. But I don't do that. I suppose I could. Once I've drilled it, I suppose I could do that, but I'm happy doing it the way I do it. But doing it with a literally file and a Dremel and sandpaper, you're going to spend so much time just getting rid of the meat of that, the stuff that you're disposing of. So that's going to put you off. Your hands are going to be sort of shaking from that Dremel action for so long. Your hands are going to be buzzing probably after you've worked on it for a few hours. Yeah. I mean, even if you didn't have a lathe, if you had the hobby block so it's already pre-drilled, if you just do what I did for a couple of years before I got any sanding, sort of any motors on my workbench. Hey, you done? I had my sanding wheel, my shaping wheel on an upturned drill. You put a really coarse sanding disc on there, that'll go through the briar very quickly, and that at least will save a lot of time that you were doing on the Dremel and the sanding and the filing. Get yourself some sanding discs of 40 grit, even 60 grit, but 40 will go through it like a hot knife through butter. That's definitely gonna move things along nice and quickly for you. I've been enjoying snuff quite a bit as well lately. Yeah, Steve, one day you just try it again. You never know, you might get the bug, and suddenly it'll all work out. But I would definitely use some kind of motorized means of sanding. Other than if you don't, then it's going to be a killing. It's going to knock you out. I can't imagine doing it just with hand tools. I know plenty of people do, but you'd have to have so much patience to do that, and strength, stamina. Well, my brother and sister-in-law, their son is getting married in a few weeks' time, so they did a little weekend kind of celebration. So we were there last night and today. They're like a 20-minute walk from here. So we were there for, we had a couple of celebratory family get-togethers, meals. So he brought out, I said to him, have you got any snuff handy? And he said, yeah, hang on. He came back with a bag full. He must have had about 30 different snuffs in there. And I tried probably about 10 of them, literally one after the other. And some of them are quite nice. This is the one that I smoke. This is the one that I imbibe the most, which is the Pushel Prise. This has got Columbia oil in it, so I'm not sure what that does to it, but I just like it. I also like the fact that it's quite sticky, which means that it does clump a little bit, but it does mean that I can take it into my nose with a very light inhale, but it doesn't go down to my lungs. I hate it when snuff goes down to my lungs. So I always take a very gentle sort of toke, is that the right word? So that it just goes up my nostrils and not past the top of it doesn't go past my bridge, really. And that's how I like to take snuff. So I have two of them. I don't know if this is the one you mean, the gold, the extra. So this one is a little bit more. It's got a little bit of an extra kind of flavour to it. But this is the one that I have the most. And it's a very, very cheap and economical way to imbibe tobacco. It dries up your nose and hard to get out. Well, it should loosen things up. I don't know how much you're putting up there, but it should loosen things up. You blow your nose, you clear your nose. I guess people react in different ways to snuff. Electric Gold, yeah. It's I had some of that last night. My brother had some of that. But he gave me a different one, which was really tasty. It was a name that I'd not heard of before, and the blend was called Blue. I'm actually going to send him a message and ask him to send me the link to the website. Aromatic tobacco that I'd recommend. Well, you know what I smoke. That's what I'd recommend. Any of the vanilla creams from McBaron. They're all great, and they all have a slight different profile. At the moment, I would say that my favourite is between the flake and the roll cake. The loose cut, I don't smoke so much anymore. That was my favourite at the time. You could try Blend 131 from... who's it from? Who makes 131? Come on, Josh. Hey, Patrick. Solani, thank you. So Solani Blend 131. That's a very nice... John, hi, how are you doing? That's a very nice aromatic. That is a classic sort of base of Virginia and Cavendish, but it's topped with single malt whiskey. And it's one of the few whiskey blends, I keep saying this, that you can actually taste a quality single malt whiskey. But if I had to recommend just one aromatic tobacco, it would be Erinmore Flake. For me, I mean, Orlick Golden Sliced, I could recommend that as well, because technically it's an aromatic. It's got some kind of citrus flavouring in it, but I consider it really to be a Virginia more. I mean, you could call it a vapor as well, because it has a dash of Perique in it as well, but it's really predominantly Virginia. But if I had to recommend a single, it would be a single aromatic, it would be Erinmore Flake. Solani is 131. It's a whiskey blend, but it's a very good quality, in my opinion, a good quality whiskey blend. If you're looking for a whiskey blend, then I would recommend that one. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as a great aromatic, because it's a very it's a niche kind of area. It's whiskey. So if you like whiskey, then give that a try, for sure. But Erinmore for me is what every aromatic tobacco should be. It's not too heavy, it's not too light, it still allows the tobacco flavour to come through. And it's a tobacco which I can turn to any time, especially those times where I just don't know what I fancy. Erinmore will always hit the spot. It's a great tobacco, in my opinion. And if you also, as you are, Michael, if you're new to pipe smoking and you enjoy aromatics, Erinmore is a good way. You could actually use it as a bit of a crossover, and kind of get used to that, and then you could start, maybe think about some more Virginia forward tobaccos. You could actually use that as a good means of crossing over to less aromatic tobaccos. Blood Red Moon, I personally, although I liked it when I first started, I personally wouldn't recommend it. It's a very, very sweet. It's a great aromatic tobacco, but it's a proper aromatic. You're not really buying it for the tobacco kind of elements of it. It's like smoking a bar of chocolate, of cherry chocolate, which is great. If you're looking for a dessert type of smoke, then yes, by all means. I still smoke it occasionally. I have a few tins of it, and I have an open jar. But if you're looking to develop your palate, I wouldn't get that personally. It's for the same reason that I wouldn't recommend Molto Dolce, which by Sutliff, which is again a great aromatic tobacco. But number one, it's hard to manage because it's sopping wet, and it's going to be hard to keep alight and all of that kind of stuff. So if you're new, I think Erinmore is just on the money. It really is. No Bite Delight, yep, that's actually a very good tobacco. I used to smoke that a lot from Boswell's. But it is an aromatic, a proper aromatic. It's also a chocolatey, caramelly kind of vanilla kind of aromatic, but it's a proper aromatic. If you're looking for something more, as I say, something leading you into more mainstream tobaccos, then I think Erinmore is great. Yeah, Cupcake is also nice, but these are all proper aromatics. These are aromatics which are dessert. It's like, if you chew gum, a fruit-based gum, because you want the sweetness from it. If that's what you like, then yes, there's no shortage. Boswell's do a whole array of aromatic tobaccos, and yes, Blood Red Moon, Molto Dolce. You can still include Erinmore in there, and McBaron's, the vanilla cream, the 131 I mentioned, and there's hundreds and hundreds of different aromatic tobaccos. Pretty much any house blends that you're going to go to, any tobacconist will have plenty of aromatics to choose from. A lot of them will be around vanilla caramel kind of thing. Yeah, 100%, Joseph. If you could start off with English and Balkan blends, with Latakia based blends, then yeah, it's going to be hard for you to go to aromatics. I agree, but I think the vast majority of people start from the other end. They'll start with aromatics and move towards, slowly edge their way towards Latakia blends. Which other Boswells? So there's No Bite Delight, Cupcake. Um, I can't remember them all. There's chocolate cream. I think I've got some of that. I like that one as well. Um, is there a cookie one as well? Maybe. There's whole. Just go on their website. Plum pudding bourbon. I tried that recently. I got a tin of that from James, and I think I got a tin from somebody else as well. Bought them for me. Um, those are really nice. I find them a little bit too heavy. Very, very rich. The plum pudding bourbon, I find that to be very rich. I might want to try that diluted with something else, actually, come to think of it. Captain Black, yep. Captain Black, Lane 1Q. Lane 1Q is, the classic aromatic which people start with and sometimes stay with all their lives. If you had to name an all-time favorite cigar hawk, which one would it be? Yeah, Joseph, that's an interesting take on it. I hear that. Although I do drink black coffee quite a bit, I still prefer, especially with Latakia based tobacco, a milky coffee is just the best to my palate. Um, uh, that's a personal thing, Joseph. I'm not sure I would say that you never really truly enjoy tobacco until you try the boldest of them. I'm not sure that's true. I think that's a personal preference, really. Padron Little Hammer. I don't think I've never had that. Uh, Padron 3000 and Neva Siri V. Yeah, those are all good. I think I have had the Padron 3000. Um, no need to apologize, Joseph. We're all giving our own opinions. Nothing that we say here is gospel. Yeah, I mean, cigars, I've got a pretty constant sort of level of cigars these days. When I first got into cigars, the same as with pipes, I bought and bought and bought. Nowadays, my financial focus is on other things, but I had a lot of cigars at one point. I ended up selling a lot of them, the ones which were collectible, and then now I just top up as and when. I've got probably, what have I got? Say, 10, 15. I don't know. I've probably got about maybe 100 cigars on hand, of which probably 40 of them I won't smoke that quickly because they're either complete boxes or they're limited editions or singles that I've got which are worth a lot of money. So when I'll smoke them, I don't know. Maybe I'll sell them one day. I have no idea. But in terms of the ones that are my regular sort of lines that I smoke on a regular basis, I've probably got, I don't know, maybe 50, 60, 70 cigars on hand, and I'll just top it up as and when. You can buy cigars in Israel, I guess they're just expensive. I don't know if you go to some of the Arabic countries, and now you've got better relations with some of them, but some of them have got great cigars. You get a lot of Cuban regional editions in the Middle East, quite strong. I think Lebanon has some regional cigars sometimes, and I think Saudi Arabia, not Saudi Arabia, the UAE. I think they have quite a healthy cigar culture, and they do like their stuff strong, like their coffee and that kind of thing. They like strong flavors. And I guess when you're out there, you don't have the luxuries, Joseph. You get by with what you've got, and then you get a liking for it. Your palate adjusts to it, I guess. I mean, when I drink coffee, I have sweeteners in it, and obviously I used to have sugar years and years and years ago, but now I prefer sweetener. It's what you're used to. Sugar is much too sweet. If I run out, or if I'm out somewhere and they don't have sweetener, then I'll have sugar, but it's not the same. Although I'm sure some people would say that sugar's healthier than sweeteners. You can't go to Lebanon, you can't go to Jordan. I think the UAE, though, you should be able to get cigars. But you've got a few tobacconists in Jerusalem, haven't you? I mean, when I went to Israel a few years ago, I met up with Izzy, with Happy Go Lucky Piper, and he gifted me a few cigars, so he'd obviously bought them somewhere. And he even managed to he had some McClellan tobacco as well, although I don't think they'd shut down by then. I can imagine the prices are crazy, yeah. Well, they're pretty crazy here too. I mean, what would you pay for a Robusta-sized Cuban cigar in Israel? $20 for a Romeo Juliet #1. Okay, so that's like a Mareva type size. It's probably a 5x42, I would imagine, something like that. I don't know if there's better shops or not. I'm not familiar. It's a lot of money, but it's not a million miles away from what we pay here. Yeah, Canada has also got some pretty draconian tax laws as well. You pay a lot of money in tax there, that's for sure. Yeah. Well, in the US, you wouldn't get a Romeo and Juliet, but you'd get, well, you would, but not a Cuban one. The prices of cigars in America are completely different. I mean, for a non-Cuban, you'd pay for a decent cigar. You can get plenty of decent cigars for $6, $7. I mean, you can get even things like Corum, which is an economic kind of level cigar, and it's a pretty decent cigar. A friend of mine said he bought them for $1 a piece. Um, I don't know where he got them in the States for that, but he got a whole bunch of them for $1 a cigar for Corums. I don't know what size they were either. 45, Tiago. Wow. What size? A number one. Right. That's a lot of money. That's crazy. Well, I'd imagine Miami would be the place to go for cigars. That's where that's little Havanas there, isn't it? In Miami. All the ex-Cubans who are in they've been basically either left or kicked out of Cuba and had their brands nicked by the Cuban government. A lot of them based in Miami. Charlie Escobar. Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, a premium cigar in the States, you can get a huge array selection of good quality cigars for $10. Plenty, no shortage. And that's amazing. That's one thing I would certainly do if I went to America, is go to some decent tobacconists and stock up on cigars. If I'd get through customs or not is a different matter, but that's what I would do. For me to buy, you can get the non-Cubans here in the UK. A lot of the tobacconists have a very good selection nowadays. I know that GQ, for instance, has a really big selection of non-Cubans, of New World cigars, and the pricing is better than Cubans. They're roughly a third off the price, but they're still expensive. We're still paying the exorbitant taxes on them. So a cigar that you might pay $7 or $8 in the States, you're still going to pay about 17, 18 pounds here. So about $25. So it's still very expensive, but just not as expensive as Cubans, which might be around $30, $40, Idan, that's the only way. You got to get somebody to buy them and send them to you. That really is the best way. But you can try, companies like Cuppa Joe's and Four Noggins. These guys will send stuff out to you, and it should get through. As long as you buy sensibly and don't buy boxes and boxes of the stuff. Buy small amounts but often if you try to build up a stock. Tim, I think, recently got a box of cigars from smokingpipes.com and it came through no problem. A box of 25, I think. Hey Ross, how you doing? That's what I would do, Idan, is just get, depending on your budget, but get samplers, 5 packs. It's the best way to do it, and you'll soon build up a decent stock. On a 5 pack, you'll spend maybe $40, $50. You can spend much less as well, depending on which ones you go for. You can buy the more economic ranges. You can get rather than in a fancy box, you get the ones which are wrapped in cellophane. Still 25 cigars or 20 cigars. Maybe for $70, $80. That's a great way of doing it if you're happy with those cigars. That could be, Idan. It could be that Israel is a country which they're not happy shipping to. That I don't know. I can't answer that. Four Noggins also. Yeah, that's probably because stuff was getting lost. That's probably why. Sadly, the Israeli post system is not up there. It's a bit third world when it comes to that, which I've always found a bit odd, given the technologies that they have in that country. But when it comes to the postal system, it is a bit third world. Yeah, most of the online cigar, Cuban cigar websites will guarantee the shipping. I Havana's does. Recently, they've kind of done sort of exceptions for a while. They'll say, they'll blacklist the country and say, we're not shipping to this country and not shipping to that country. As soon as they basically have a consistent run of stuff getting lost, they'll just say, fine, we're not doing that country for the moment. And usually they'll reintroduce it once things settle down. So during the COVID pandemic, they've had to do that a few times. There was a time when they stopped sending to the UK, but that's been re-established. I haven't ordered from them for a while. Stuff is taking longer to get here than it used to, but for now I'm all right, really. Mr. Simba, how you doing? Haven't seen you for a while. Hope you're well. Tim, the Nika Rustica, is it called Rustica for any particular reason? Is there any... What is the blend? Is it smooth? Is it Kentucky? Is it... What is it? Does the Rustica signify anything in the blend? Some of the sites are based in Switzerland. I mean, the one that I get from I Havana's, it's the website itself, I think, is possibly Switzerland. They get issued sometimes from Hungary. The actual shipping comes from Hungary sometimes, and the financials, when you pay on the website, the internet sort of payment system that they use is based in Hong Kong. So they're doing a lot of tax workarounds and things like that. So you really do need to make sure that you're happy with the website that you're using. How is the gas issue? The gas issue is not back to normal. The pricing is going through the roof. Oh, you mean the fuel, the petrol? No, it's not back to normal yet. I did manage to fill up the other day, but it's not back to normal. They say in about a week or so it should be back to normal. The government has apparently said that they've applied 300 military personnel to help with the deliveries. There isn't a shortage of fuel, it's just a shortage of lorries to deliver it to the forecourts, to the petrol forecourts. The Nika Rustica was a staff blender, okay. That's very much like the Undercrowns from Drew Estates. The Drew Estates, the Undercrown whole range was born out of their other line, their premium line. What was it called again? Oh man, my brain. But anyway, it was the Undercrowns were born out of that as well. It was a blend which the workers were allowed to make for themselves, so that they didn't Liga Privada. Thank you, Mr. Eximba. No, it was Liga Privada, the number 9 especially. So they used to the Liga Privada was made with a limited run, more of a rarer kind of tobacco leaf, and I think that the people who were rolling, they were allowed to smoke whilst they were on the job, and they were just smoking up this rare leaf. So they made a different one made out of more regular tobacco. I think that's the story, and that's how the Undercrown whole range started off with the Undercrown. They just had the Shade and the Maduro, and now they've got a whole, I don't know, they've got about 7 or 8 in different ones. It was the Maduro, I think, first, or maybe the Shade first, and then you got the Sun-grown, and now they've got various other different ones. But um, the Maduro, the Shade, and the Sun-grown, I really enjoy. My stance on politics, I don't know. The three pipes from the left on the bottom of my pipe rack. Okay, so this one is one of my oldest pipes. This is a Boswell full bent billiard. This is a pipe I use for English blends, Latakia blends. It's got some nice flame grain on there. That's 2016. This one is an LCS, a rare sandblasted LCS. I've only ever had 4, I think, pipes, LCS pipes, sandblasted. This is the only one I've got left, and I kept it for myself. Kind of a brandy glass shape. Beautiful pipe. I've had a lot of people ask me if I'll sell it. And the third one is the 2020 Pipe of the Year from Stanwell. It's quite a big pipe, Hawk, but it's tapered. It's got an acute taper, so it does take a fair bit of tobacco, but it's not a huge bowl. I would agree with you, Mr. Ximba. I think the undercrowns are fantastic. I actually think they're smoother. It depends on what your palate preference is. I prefer smoother and sweeter, and I think that the undercrowns, I think they're smoother than the Liga Privada. The Liga Privada is nice, but it's a more beefy kind of smoke, I suppose you could say. The Flying Pig, I've actually got an undercrown Flying Pig, which I've had for so long. I've had it for probably 4 or 5 years, and it should be a really great smoke when I get round to it. I've never yet smoked any of their Flying Pigs, but I bought that one a long time ago in the Dunhill shop, but I still haven't smoked it. I don't know why. I've got so many singles of cigars which I've bought in order to make videos of, and I just find that I don't have the time anymore for that. So it's very rare that I smoke my singles. My pipes, well, the ones that are there are my workhorses. I've whittled down my pipes to quite a concise group of pipes now. And what you see here is pretty much what's left of my own rotation of pipes. I've got a couple more. I've got a couple up there, and I've got a couple there. Those are my pipe books and magazines up there, by the way. It's plenty of reading material. But behind me, I've got another couple of pipes, but maybe a few more in my drawers. But pretty much, this is the bulk of what I smoke myself. I'll happily give you a tour if you're interested. I can show you each pipe. The Avo. I've tried the Avos. I'm not a great fan of them. The ones that I tried anyway. So I mean, in terms of workhorses, they do get good use. The ones that are here get used. Okay, I'll give you a quick tour. So I'll start up there. This is oh, hang on. This is an Ascorti. This is a Christmas pipe, I think, 1997. There you go, special edition. Interesting pipe. Really, really nice pipe, and it smokes beautifully. This pipe, although I don't smoke it as much as I used to, but it's a pipe that I really, really like. And it's one of those pipes which I've always said is, it's almost like it feels like it's not there. It's just so smooth and easy, so comfortable. It's almost like an extension of your mouth, that you just don't feel that you're smoking a pipe. It's just so easy going. This is a Radice Pipe of the Year, Briar Blues, 2019. This is an Astley. Astley's of London. Just a classic sandblasted billiard. This is a Boswell. Again, very tapered, Dublin, rusticated Dublin, beautiful pipe. I made the stem myself when I converted it to 9mm. This is a pipe I bought when I was still smoking regular pipes without filters. This is a Tom Phillips freehandy bulldoggy type thing. Very, very nice pipe, pretty hefty pipe, really nice grain, nice plateau. This one I re-drilled, got a Cumberland stem, but I re-drilled this one because it was quite narrow and it wasn't smoking well. Once I re-drilled it, it smokes beautifully. Then we have my LCS bamboo Dublin, I guess. Eldritch stem. It smokes beautifully. And we have Chacombe Pipe of the Year. Sorry, Pipe Club of London Pipe of the Year, 2021. I actually managed to buy a second one of these, and I sent that on to James Stumbo. Smokes very well. It's one of the pipes which smoked great, literally from the first bowl, and I don't often have that with new pipes. It just smoked fantastic. It's quite a shallow pipe, as you can see, so the bowl is quite small, but it just smoked awesome from the first bowl. There you go, James is right there. And this is another Boswell bent apple. This is one of my first ever pipes that I bought from Boswell's. Also a tapered bowl, and I smoked Northwoods in this pretty much. Northwoods and Special Attica flake, and smokes awesome. Fantastic pipe. Next is my Bentley. This one I used to smoke pretty much only 40th anniversary or McClellan Virginias, but now I smoke any Virginias in it. It smokes great. Next one is my birthday pipe. This was a pipe I commissioned from Northern Briars, and then I sent it back to him to get it converted to 9mm. And there's my birthday on there. He put my date on it. Cumberland. Very, very great smoking pipe. This one is one of mine. It's an LCS, a recent pipe I made. Just got phenomenal grain. Had a couple of fissures in the top. so I didn't sell it. I kept it for myself, and it's already an Orlik golden sliced workhorse. Smokes fantastic. Next up is a smaller, like a Group 3 type Quebec, similar to the other one. I think this is a Group 4. Yeah, so this is a Group 4, and this one should be a Group 3. Yeah, got a little 3 there, with a nice Cumberland stem with a sort of silver band. I would say that I haven't fully broken in this pipe. I smoke it quite regularly, but I wouldn't say that I've fully broken in it. I'm not getting the best flavours from it yet. Next up is my LCS. This is my main OGS workhorse. I smoke Orlik Golden Slice and this the most. And really nice pipe. That's one of my own. Oh, it's even got a stamp on it. I didn't realise I'd stamped it. Next up, this is my Jason Mirchon Levat, sandblasted, and this pipe was a pipe I acquired in a trade with Jason. I sent him a Millennium unsmoked Stanwell Pipe of the Year from 2020, a very collectible pipe, and he had fallen in love with it, and we worked out this deal, and I'm still breaking this in, but it smokes well. This one is a pipe by Fabrizio Natalizia. He's a guy I followed quite avidly in the beginning. I bought quite a few of his pipes, and this is the only one I've got left. This was a custom order commission. This was a pipe which was supposed to look like a pipe that Glenn Drop Bear Woodworks has, which was made by Jim Deshane, JD Smoking Pipes, and he did a pretty good job, but he stained it a lot darker. But which one was that, Hawk? This one, or the Mirchon, Jason Mirchon one? The Fabrizio one or the Jason Mirchon one? So this one I use for, again, this one is a Latakia pipe. Classic Danish apple type pipe. Next one, the Mirchon, right. Next one is Stanwell Golden Contrast. Just about make out the golden contrast there. And chances are this one was stained by Tom L. Tank, because he did their golden contrast pipes a while back. And this is my LCS apple, and this one is inspired by Lars Iversen pipes. And this is also a Latakia pipe. Great smoking pipe. It's got a very slight oval shape to it. Nice grain on that side, certainly. And then that's the Stanwell 2020, and you've seen the other two. This was my first attempt at Quebec. It's basically a Rhodesian, and this one also is an Orlick golden sliced smoker, and it smokes very, very well. I take this when I go out often. Maybe if I'm going out with a family, if I'm outdoors, it's nice and lightweight, and it smokes brilliant. And we have this panelled Escorty. Gorgeous pipe. Resist the temptation, James. Just resist. You too, Josh. Then we have another Astley. This is also a Latakia pipe. Beautiful pipe. Love this pipe. Don't smoke it as much as I should, but a great smoking pipe. Nice grain. Then we have this Phil Rivara calabash. Briar calabash. Gorgeous grain. I've since sent this back to him and he's converted it for 9mm. Really nice pipe. I used to only smoke Penzance in this, but now I'll smoke any Latakia blend in there. And we have this Chacombe, a beautiful flame grain. It's called Super Flame, I guess. But it's got phenomenal grain on it, and it seems to have some kind of lacquer on it as well. Great pipe. This was the first pipe that I bought which felt like an artisan kind of shaped pipe to me. Bit of an acorn kind of look to it. And this is Cumberland stem. So this wouldn't have come off. I don't think this came off the lathe as a standard shape. I bought this from GQ Tobaccos. I saw it at the pipe show, Nottingham Pipe Show in 2018, and I kind of was tempted to pull the trigger on it. Instead, I bought a Savinelli. But the next day, I called him up and I said, "Do you still have it?" And he said yes, and I bought it. The Mirchons I showed a little bit earlier. Got this little Skovgard, which I've put up for sale because I don't smoke it very much, but it's one that I have smoked. But a nice sandblast. And this one no longer has a stem. This is an early LCS pipe. What number do you think this is? Do you remember this little golf ball type rustication I did? I think Tim got a very similar one to this. Somebody bought it for him, somebody gifted it for him. I think it was Art maybe. This one is LCS 18. We're now at 438 or something like that. So that's 420 pipes ago. That's still a pretty decent effort, considering it was pipe 18. And this one is a Duncan Briars. It's a freehand made in England. I bought this on eBay actually, unsmoked. I think it's sold by the maker. I put my own stem on it. I converted it to 9mm, and I put my own stem on it. Don't smoke this one as much as I ought to. It's a good smoking pipe. This one here is a little bit of an oddity. I haven't smoked it in ages. It's a pipe that I made very early on, had some issues with it, and I just kept it for myself. But again, this is a good Virginia smoker, and again, very lightweight, very, very comfortable, and it's got a bit of a plateau base left on there, hence that shape. It's actually quite an interesting shape, but it smokes well. And truth be told, I could probably sort this now if I really wanted to, get it back on the lathe, but it's fine. And that's pretty much it, really, for the pipes that I smoke. I've got a few others which have been for sale for a while now. I don't really smoke them, but those are pretty much the pipes that I smoke, some more than others, but that's pretty much it. But the ones which are on my desk tend to be my workhorses. Good night, Ross. Thanks for joining. The LCS shop pipe, well, they're all outside in the workshop, so whatever's out there, yeah. The small billiard. Not sure which one you mean. Unless you're talking about this one. But other than that, there's a handful of pipes out there. Oh, the small bent one with the white band, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't show you those now, but there are a few. I've got one which kind of started the reef finish, which I don't really use very much, which is basically a Sea-Rock style rustication, but I just find it too painful to do it on my hands, so I don't do it very often. But it's a nice finish, the Sea-Rock. No, my kids, I've got two kids that smoke, and one of them is pretty much on vapes exclusively and the occasional cigar. But he's not really into the cigars. He's not a dedicated cigar smoker. And the other one smokes a combination of cigarettes and vapes. My oldest doesn't smoke at all. He's unlikely ever to. And then you got the other two that do smoke, and the rest are too young. Carpal tunnel, yeah, absolutely, Hawk. You got it in one. And basically all the finishes that I've kind of developed, it really is born out of not wanting to do the refinish. It's just too strenuous. So the Carve Blast is really born out of that, but it's turned into something in itself. It has its own merits. But I think that at some point I'll find the right bit that will allow me to make something which resembles a coral or a coral reef or a Sea-Rock rather type of rustication, but that I could do with a Dremel or something like that. If I look at Blake Marbriers, his rusticated pipes, he does those with just a diamond burr round kind of gougey kind of bit, puts it in a drill or in a motor that spins around, and he just turns the pipe on it. It's possibly something that I could develop, but to me those look too much like a machine made. They don't really look like a coral reef rustication, and at the moment the only real way to do it is by doing it by hand, and that's just too strenuous. You look online, you see videos of Castello doing the reef, the Sea-Rock is done by hand. Do I have any pipes with a white stem? No, no, I don't. Humdrum, how are you doing? How long have we been on? Nearly 2 hours. So this cigar has lasted me a fair amount of time. I think I've only relit it once. I think it's actually quite lightly filled. It's not a very, it's quite an open draw. So it's oxygenated well, so it stays alight quite well. Even though I'm talking sometimes for 5 minutes, it still stays alight. Monte Cristo's number 2s, very nice. Well, I've got a few Monte Cristos. Jack sent me a few recently, which was very nice of him. I must admit that I find the Monte Cristos a little bit too punchy for me nowadays. I used to really love them. I used to start my day with a Petit number 2. In the days before I discovered filtered pipes and I couldn't smoke that often. I just got tongue bite too often. So I used to smoke the Petit number 2, a fantastic cigar. I do have a single left. I had a box of 10 I bought recently and I've got one left. But I must be honest, I don't know, it's a bit weird because usually you'd expect your tolerance to nicotine to increase, but the number 2 I find a little bit too punchy now. I do get a nick hit from those. Yeah, the Jekyll and Hydes, they really are nice. I've made a couple of them, and they've both been very popular. So yeah, I could do with making some more of those. I mean, the justification for a Jekyll and Hyde pipe is simply that one side of the pipe has got stunning grain, and the other side of the pipe either has very poor grain, or there's a surface blemish which you want to get past, so you just rusticate the other side, or even sandblast it if you've got a sandblaster. That's, I imagine, how the Jekyll and Hyde concept was born. But they do look very interesting, and if you do them well, that the line down the center is neat, it looks fantastic. The one that the two that I can remember is one that Idan has on its way to him, came out really nice, and one that what's his name now, the German guy, my memory is terrible. I should remember his name because he's sending me a book, which is very nice of him, a catalogue, which I'm looking forward to receiving. It's a pipe catalogue from I don't know how long ago, maybe 20 years old or something like that. I love looking at pipe catalogues. What percentage, Jeff, would you say of those are Cuban? How long ago did I make the Jekyll and Hyde? Not that long. I don't remember. If you look back through my videos, you'll find it. I'm just looking through my videos. I don't know how far ago it was. It's funny, I'm looking through some of my older videos. Every so often I'll flick through an old video. I'll see pipes on there that I've completely forgotten about. And they look fantastic, and I think to myself, did I really make that? It's really funny. I'm looking at a Jekyll and Hyde right now, which I'd forgotten about, which is a sea rock on one side and smooth on the other. So you can see a nice bird's eye on one side, the other side obviously wasn't. That came out really nice. No, this isn't yours. There's all the Jekyll and Hyde stuff coming up. Lovely. Your one is a carve blast, Idan. It's very nice. $100 or so a Cuban, Jeff. Nice, very nice. Hey Bernard, how you doing? That pickaxe I had, that was a Soren Refberg, who sadly passed away recently. Stunning pipe that. Eventually managed to sell it because I didn't smoke it. I sold it unsmoked because soon after buying that I moved over to filtered pipes, and I didn't want to mess around with that to make it filtered. %33% of yours are Cuban. A nice one, Charlotte. It's a nice idea, Daniel. Whether I've actually got pictures of all of them, I do not know. I suppose I could take stills from the YouTube videos. Yeah, the fridge humidors are fantastic. It's what I use. I've never had a problem. Never ever had a problem. The one I've got, I could actually use it with the refrigeration on if I wanted to, because it's not one with a compressor, which would dry out the cigars. But I just use it as an airtight container essentially. That's my Frigidor there, and all I use is the gel things for humidification. Exactly, James. I think Josh must be around 18 or 20 pipes by now. That sounds about right, Jeff. And I think it's very wise that you keep them separate from the non-Cubans. It's what I would advise. It's what I do too, for the most part. There are the odd non-Cuban in there, but generally speaking, I keep them separate. The non-Cubans, I keep them usually in airtight Tupperware containers. 17. That's a good number. I have one other customer that has a similar number, but I'm not sure of the exact number, if it's more or less than yours. You're either number one or number two. In fact, I've got 2 pipes in the drawer which that customer has bought, but because of the way postage is going, he's asked me just to hold on to them. And that's one of them. It's a Shape 55 with a bamboo single knuckle. It's a gorgeous pipe. Nice thick walls. Lovely pipe, came out gorgeous. That's one which I'm holding. And this is the other one. Two really nice pipes. Hefty, but lovely. And Charlotte, this is for you. I never tire of this view. I've put a bowl coating in it now, just to keep that bowl secure. And this one also I finished recently. Didn't showed this one before. This is a Volcano. This has got the British tan staining. This one is still sitting in my drawer. Made this one a while back. Had a few issues, which is why I haven't sold it. It's got the X there for seconds. Nice little compact Dublin. Well, it had floors. It had sand pits, which were, one of them certainly went right through. It was only a very small sand pit, but it still went through, so I couldn't in good conscience sell it. Oh, it's a lovely pipe. It's got a fantastic grain, which is a shame when that happens. And I've put a bowl coating in it to protect it, and I'm sure it will smoke fine, but I just can't sell it in good conscience. Okay, well, gentlemen, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining. I think we'll call it a night. Thank you, Edan. Thank you, James. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Jeff, Daniel, Thiago, Joseph, Briar Blues, Josh, Daniel, Boris, Hawk, and everybody else. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Roberto. Good night. Thank you, Matthew. Mr. Eximba, thank you very much. I wish you all well. And tomorrow I shall probably, hopefully, finish off this pipe. A nice little Lovat. And it weighed in at 37 grams so far. Maybe a bit less tomorrow by the time I finish sanding it and finishing off the fines, sort of shaping around the junction there. But should be a lovely pipe, this one. Humdrum, thank you very much. Good night, everybody. I will catch you on the next one.